Guys, you need to listen to what I'm about to tell you, so I hope that you are sitting down. You are not going to believe what I'm about to read you. You're not going to believe this. But I think Maura Healey is a subscriber to this channel because her latest move is literally right out of our playbook. She just dropped a literal bomb and is calling for sweeping changes to the state's one-of-a-kind right to shelter law. I've been saying this for months, okay? You know this. I've been saying this for months. The right to shelter laws that were once adopted creates a sustainability issue today because of the amount of people that are pouring into the state. This policy's been around for like 40 years or something, guys. And now she's saying the system can't handle the influx of migrant families and the rising demand anymore. I mean, Jesus, we have been saying this for months and months and months. It's just not mathematically possible, and it causes strain on our resources, right? It's a somewhat of a bottleneck. So now she's urging lawmakers to tighten eligibility and impose residency requirements. And of course, let's just say not everybody is so thrilled about this. I can't wait to read this article. Thank you for sending this to me. I literally just got back from showings and somebody texted me this. So thank you for sending this to me, okay? It says, and I'm reading this live, guys, so if there's any hiccups or anything like that, I apologize, all right? Amid mounting scrutiny, Governor Healey asks lawmakers to make dramatic changes to Massachusetts' right to shelter law. I cannot wait to read this. Governor Maura Healey on Wednesday urged state lawmakers to pass a suite of changes that would effectively end Massachusetts' unique right to shelter law as it currently exists. Asks that include imposing a residency requirement that could make newly arrived migrants ineligible for beds and requiring background checks on all residents. Healey unveiled the proposal in a letter to the legislature's Democratic leaders asking for these and other changes, but she did not file the legislation herself. She instead asked them to add the proposed changes to the $425 million spending bill she filed last week to keep the state's emergency shelter system funded, arguing her letter that the changes are needed to ensure the long-term sustainability of the state shelter system. We covered a video on this already. Healey, a first-term Democrat, said last week she was open to rewriting the state's right to shelter law, which the state adopted 40 years ago to require Massachusetts provide shelter for homeless parents with children and pregnant women. It's the only statewide law of its kind in the country, but Healey said the measure's original intent was not to cover the waves and waves of people, including migrant families, who have come into the state in recent years. That's exactly what I said. But her proposals Wednesday go even further to rein in the law than she indicated in comments last week, and if adopted, they would mark a significant pivot for Democrats who have repeatedly turned back efforts from Republican legislatures to amend or suspend the law. Healey herself was adamant last year that she wasn't abandoning the decades-old law even as she implemented a raft of changes to the shelter system. She was so basically last year she was it seems as though she was adamant, that's the language they used, that she was not going to change this. Clearly something happened between that time to now, okay? What that was, I don't know, but clearly there is more information that is being put out there, and she must obviously see that the people see that this is an issue, okay? That's normally when these lawmakers start to get involved, is if the public becomes more aware of something and it becomes an issue, then they have to create a solution to that problem. And that's effectively what's happening here. Healey's proposals include one, to require that all shelter applicants show they have an intent to remain in Massachusetts, either through what she called independent documentary verification, or by having a physical presence in Massachusetts for the previous 3 months. She did not clarify exactly how individuals would have to prove that. I'm very interested in this. Healey also said that the state should eliminate so-called presumed eligibility. Under current law, shelter applicants don't need to provide upfront documentation showing they meet the system's wide-ranging eligibility requirements. Healey instead wants to require the state to verify identity, residency, and other information before someone is placed in the system. That's a huge W if it happens, okay? Another proposal would require people prove they've been evicted from a home in Massachusetts. Currently, somebody can be evicted from another state, such as nearby Rhode Island, and then qualify for housing in Massachusetts. There's many loopholes to these systems, guys. Obviously, this Globe's report is actually very good because they are exposing some of these loopholes in the system. Healey also wants to require the applicants disclose criminal convictions in Massachusetts and elsewhere. Healey last week said that the state would perform full criminal background checks on each of the thousands of people staying in the emergency shelter system, saying she ordered such a step last spring, but that those checks were not conducted. I don't know. I'm not 100% on that, guys. The Healey administration has declined to provide further details as to why the governor's orders were not followed. Clearly, something's going on. A Healey spokesperson told the Globe that Healey gave a verbal directive to her team in the beginning of April of 24 to conduct the checks. Her office has not answered questions on exactly when she delivered to Edict or to whom. The directive came after a shelter resident was arrested in March for the alleged rape. I shouldn't say that out loud. They committed a crime at Rockland Shelter. My proposed changes will allow us to continue to ensure the safety of our system, support cities and towns in addressing the needs of unhoused families in their communities, and put us on the path forward, or put us on a path toward a more fiscally sustainable emergency assistance shelter system in fiscal year 2026 and beyond. That is a win because right now, again, it is not sustainable. Okay. The proposal drew immediate condemnation from some who argued Healey was betraying the state's values. Healey can talk about how many times she sued Trump as AG all she wants, but this list of shelter changes is directly from his playbook and plays directly into his racist fear-mongering. Mark Martinez, an attorney at Massachusetts Law Reform Institute and former legislative staffer, posted on X, absolutely shameful racist. Listen, guys, like I understand to a point why on a surface level, somebody could assume those things. But what's happening is, as we've talked about so many times, is that if there's the more people that are coming here and the more resources that are being expended, right? It's just not it's not a sustainable thing, guys. It's not sustainable. So like, in one hand, yes, you're trying to protect the people that are coming here, but on the other hand, you're affecting the people that already live here because it's coming out of the taxpayers' dollars, right? So there has to be a balance to that system. And without changing the systems that were adopted previously when there was substantially less people coming here, then what are we doing here, right? Like, what are we doing? Changes need to be made in order to move forward. We can't live in the past, okay? Healey's administration has faced mounting questions and criticisms over public safety at the shelters after an undocumented immigrant was arrested on gun and drug charges at a Revere hotel being used as a shelter. Administration officials acknowledged to the Globe that the state had not been conducting full criminal background checks on those emergency shelters. Despite repeated assurances for months, its vetting process was thorough. State records show that more than 1,000 serious incidents, including more than a dozen alleged offenses, were reported at Massachusetts emergency family shelters during one 20-month period, the Globe has reported. In a statement Wednesday, Mariano did not commit to embracing the various changes, saying the House would talk with Healey officials and remain focused on instituting further reforms centered around fiscal responsibility and safety. So that's it, guys. Maura is a subscriber to the channel. I mean, obviously something is going on here, okay? Something is going on here. Something has changed from last year to this year. I'm sure the new administration coming into the White House has put pressure on a lot of states, right? They are literally being threatened, basically, if they do not comply with ICE. So something is going on here, and honestly, this is a huge win for Maura Healey. I think if she again, listen, guys, sometimes these politicians' decisions, okay, and I'm not saying this is the case here, and you may know where I'm heading with this. Sometimes these lawmakers and these like so-called leaders' decisions aren't necessarily what they want to do, okay? It's not always the case. There's always people in their ear. They're always trying to please one side, the other side, all of these other things. And it's a really, really, really hard thing to do, to be true to what you got into office for and to stay that path. That's why very often we see a lot of politicians, they'll talk a big game prior to getting elected, and then after election, they have this person in this year, they have this person in this year, and then they have the public trust that they're trying to kind of weave and bob their way around all of these things. So I think that ultimately somebody must have done something, okay? Somebody must have done something. And I think a lot of this stuff is numbers, guys, right? Like, if you are in a position where you are bleeding money and you start to identify, and I'm not saying this is the case, okay? I'm just giving you a rough example. But if you're losing money or there's an instance where your resources are being expended and there's a way to solve that problem, then if that becomes identified, it is much easier to find a path to move forward, okay? So I think that perhaps they've known quite a bit about this for some time, but I think that with the new administration coming in, I think there's exceeding pressures that are making them actually act on these things. So again, huge W on this one, at least on this, okay? It's a huge W. And I really want to, I hope there's some more behind the scenes stuff that I could figure out. If anybody has anything, let me know, because I would like to know what that like exact vetting process is going to look like. Maybe they don't even have something drafted yet. But anyway, anything to help protect the citizens of our state and the cities and, you know, start heading in the right direction. I think that's what everybody wants. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.